From the library of the New York Stock Exchange at the corner of Wall and Broad Streets in New York City, you're inside the Ice House, our podcast from Intercontinental Exchange on markets, leadership, and vision in global business. The dream drivers that have made the NYSE an indispensable institution of global growth for over 225 years. Each week, we feature stories of those who hatch plans, create jobs, and harness the engine of capitalism. Right here, right now at the NYSE and at ICE's exchanges and clearinghouses around the world. And now welcome inside the Ice House. Here's your host, Josh King of Intercontinental Exchange.
One of the main reasons for starting Inside the Ice House over 150 episodes ago was to bring to light just how connected to one another are the global markets that ICE serves across its exchanges. Everyone hearing that thought, and our regular listeners, don't need reminding that the story began with Jeff Sprecher setting out back in 2000 to modernize energy markets before expanding the ICE process to include futures, commodities, clearing, equities, bonds, mortgages, and more. Today, ICE is the home of global energy pricing, responsible for the global oil benchmark Brent, as well as a number of other important benchmarks, including next year the subject of a recent podcast episode, Murban, the crude from Abu Dhabi in the UAE. The prospects for energy producers and those who invest in them across the globe is tied to the price of energy. Through the New York Stock Exchange, ICE is also where energy companies list their shares, and investors can buy and sell those shares. This year, 2020, also celebrates the 20th anniversary of the listing of one of the largest oil producers in the world. In August 2000, the Brazilian Petroleum Corporation, known worldwide as Petrobras, listed right here on the NYSE. The company's listing was one of the largest in our 227-year history and was marked here at the exchange by Petrobras executives and their superstar company spokesman, the one and only Pele. In June 2019, the company completed a $2 billion follow-on offering and has returned to the New York Stock Exchange for an investor day that will be held this afternoon in our boardroom. Joining us today inside the Ice House is Petrobras' CEO, Roberto Branco, who just rang the opening bell and will be addressing that packed room of investors this afternoon to present the company's strategic 5-year plan. Our conversation with Roberto Branco on why Petrobras needs to mind the gap and what does the future hold for the company and Brazilian oil. That's right after this.
And now a word from Alberto Manache, CEO of Lynx, NYSE ticker LINX.
Lynx is a Brazilian software company that does software for retailers, and we also have payments and financial services. Lynx has 45,000 clients. We have a very diversified customer base. New York Stock Exchange has a great history, the most important stock exchange in the world. Lynx is listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
Our guest today, Roberto Branco, was on Petrobras' board of directors from 2015 to 2016 and named CEO of the company in January 2019. Previously, he was an executive and director at Vale SA, the mining company, that's NYSE ticker symbol VALE, and served on the boards of several financial institutions. He's an affiliated professor at Fundação Getúlio Vargas, that's FGV in Brazil, where he earned a bachelor's degree and doctorate in economics. Mr. Branco also received a postdoctoral degree from the University of Chicago. Welcome back, sir, to the New York Stock Exchange, and welcome inside the Ice House.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again. The NYSE is the house of capitalism. It's the capital of global capital markets. So it's always a pleasure to come here.
So this is your first time at the NYSE as CEO. How is that view from the Bell Podium? I watched the video of you and your colleagues with our Vice Chairman, John Tuttle, up there this morning as global markets sprang to life with your pressing that button.
This is a very happy day for us. First, because we are here. Second, I would say thank you to markets, because markets this year recognized the effort. Petrobras share price outperformed all our peers. So it's a great achievement for the year.
Your background is in economics, and you've been a champion for public markets, including serving on the board of Abrasca, the Brazilian Association of Listed Companies. Are the markets a topic you've always been invested in and grew up with, discussing maybe with your mother and father?
No, at home we discuss different things. Eventually we discuss about markets, because markets, economic decisions are always in our life. When you decide what to do with your son, you give some recommendation to him or to her. Economic reasoning is always present.
What was it like growing up for you with your parents in Brazil?
It was very good. It was nice. I was born in the north of Brazil in a small town. Later on, when I was a teenager, I moved to Rio, a big city. Took me some work of adaptation. It was like, at that time, time ago, it was like migrating to a developed country. A boy from an emerging market economy migrating to a developed economy. It was different accent, different air habits. So, and I'm easy to adapt to change.
How important was getting the initial education that you got in Brazil and continuing to add to that through, frankly, the time that you studied in Chicago and also the experience that you had at MIT Sloan?
I believe that I am a privileged guy. Even in a less developed economy, I got a very good educational background, the elementary school, very good one, that prepared me to the further degrees, and I complemented my studies at the University of Chicago. The Department of Economics of the University of Chicago is one of the best in the world, if not the best, with the largest numbers of Nobel Prize laureates. So I got a very solid training in economics. This helps us as a business executive.
Prior to being named CEO of Petrobras, you were with Vail in sort of more of an investor relations role. How did you prepare to take on the leadership of more than 63,000 people now who work for Petrobras?
I was the head of investor relations, but my role at Vale was not limited to be investor relations. I was chief economist. I was linked to strategy. So I did several other things, helping the CEOs. It was a very good experience. Vale is a great company. I learned a lot. It was a very good school to me.
So you've spoken, speaking of leading Petrobras, of the need to digitally transform the company. How are you hoping to leverage technology in the coming years?
I believe that not only Petrobras, but oil and gas companies are being compelled to do that. The rate of change in the world has accelerated. Interdependence among different business increased very strongly. Our main competitors are not the oil producers, are all people from other industries. So we must be more efficient, more lower cost, and digital transformation, and particularly artificial intelligence, will be key to achieve our goals.
When you were named, Robert, CEO, you said that when you were first on the board in 2015, this is a quote from you, "I found a company in crisis. But with the professional competence and seriousness of its employees and with solid corporate governance, Petrobras is much better today. There's still a lot to do, though." That's what you said. So for our listeners who may not be familiar with the Petrobras story, can you give us a snapshot of the company from that point when you joined them on the board to where it is today?
Petrobras at that time was suffering two crises, a moral crisis and a debt crisis. It was able to surpass these, to overcome these terrible challenges. It improved, but when I started as a CEO, it was still highly indebted with low return on capital employed. That's why we're focused on these and very high costs of operations. this year, we managed to address these issues. Some progress was made, but I believe that many challenges lie ahead of us. So I am very focused on dealing with these challenges, and I would say to you that our best days are still well ahead of us.
Our best day is still well ahead of us. We are going to share this episode with the public shortly after the new year, just a couple of days after you will have marked your one-year anniversary as CEO of the company. How would you grade your first year on the job? What were those 12 months like?
I think that they are very good because I am very happy. This is my main metric. That am I happy? Yes, I am. So I believe that in the markets are the best judge. They are telling us that we are not doing a terrible job. We are winning.
In your address, when you were announced as Chief Executive Officer, you also spoke about efficiently shepherding Brazil's natural resources, which includes pre-salt petroleum. What makes those deposits unique? Very special. You can't find them anywhere else in the world.
Well, they are unique because we have large reserves, the lifting costs is low, capex costs are relatively low for traditional oil exploration, not compared to the shale oil. That's a different kind of technology. But they are great because of that. The quality is good. So these are world-class assets, long life, low cost of operation, low cost of investment, and low risk exploration. But in order to be enabled to do that, you must have highly skilled human capital and highly developed technology. And Petrobras has these two conditions.
Highly skilled technology and great people. How do the reserves themselves compare to those of other energy-producing nations? Just read an article the other day on the status of the North Sea and the Brent field. I mentioned Murban earlier, but from where you sit in Brazil and looking at Petrobras, what makes the oil from Brazil unique?
Well, our oil is relatively light, so it trades at a slight premium to the Brent. They are in a much deeper regions down the sea. That makes a special technology to be developed. The technology of the North Sea is not applicable to the pre-salt. The pre-salt is the new frontier of oil exploration in the world. You have two places in the world: the shale oil in the United States, particularly the Permian Basin, and the pre-salt in Brazil. They are the two frontiers of oil output expansion globally.
People listening to this podcast are probably somewhat familiar with oil shale extraction in North America. Give us a picture, though, of pre-salt drilling and actually what is involved in extracting oil using that process.
Well, it's a different type of rock. You have to exploit oil at 3,000, wow, 5,000 meters deep in, wow, the sea. So, and we have oil deposits 300 kilometers off the coast. So logistics is also very important. It's a highly capital-intensive business. Each production union costs about $6 billion. It's a different kind of game.
A different kind of game. After the break, Robert Castelo Branco will explain the need to mind the gap in order to meet the ambitious goals Petrobras has set for 2025. That's right after this.
And now a word on ICE's ETF Hub.
Across global markets, ETFs are flourishing. And ETF assets now top $5.5 trillion. Yet a variety of protocols and lack of standardization mean the time is right to help fuel further growth. Now new advancements can help simplify the process. We're working with the industry to create a centralized hub that connects participants and brings efficiencies to the primary market. ICE ETF Hub's unified standards and protocols supports order entry across equity and fixed income ETFs. For fixed income, the speed of custom basket facilitations will increase, with both parties using APIs, UI, and chat to assemble a mutually beneficial basket. Market efficiency will be enhanced by improved transparency, helping to boost the number of creation and redemption baskets assembled and underlying bonds traded. ICE ETF Hub brings new efficiencies to the primary trading process, fueling ongoing growth, participation, and market modernization.
Welcome back. Before the break, Robert Costello Branco, CEO of Petrobras, NYSE ticker symbol PBR, and I were discussing his first year on the job and how it's gone. The 5-year strategic plan that Petrobras is launching in 2020 is titled Mind the Gap. What is the gap that Petrobras intends to overpass?
Well, why mind the gap? We decided from the very early beginning that we should take an outside view, not an inside view. I don't like to compare Petrobras. Well, this year we are better than last year, and this year we are better than 2015. You have to look to the world, to the major oil companies, and taking this outside view, we realize that we're well behind in terms of costs, in terms of efficiency. So our goal is to close the gap, to be among the best oil companies in the world. It's not only a question of volumes, of quantities. We have to be a high-quality company in order to deliver a lot of value to shareholders. This is our view.
So you say not only volume. What are the other key metrics that you have on your dashboard that mean so much to...
Return on capital employed is key to us. Cost of capital, we have to lower cost of capital. Our ambition is to recover our investment grade rating status. We lost a few years ago due to the problems of the past. We are looking for regaining the investment grade rating and to reduce costs. There is a relentless search for lower costs in our company.
The first paragraph of your strategic plan, before even introducing the background on the name, is a commitment to become the best energy company at creating value for shareholders. So how are you going to accomplish that goal, and how does leading with shareholder value help drive the overall success of the plan?
Well, first of all, we have a plan with 5 strategic pillars that involve maximizing return on capital employed, deleveraging in order to reduce the cost of capital, reducing costs, meritocracy, incentivizing people to perform, and focus on people, safety is key, and the environment. These are 5 pillars. And use hard work, hard teamwork of talented people. We have many talented people in our company. We have some of the best oil engineers and geologists in our company. We use all our means to achieve this goal.
So with those 5 pillars, Petrobras says that its oil output will increase by 32% by 2024. How do you intend to reach that goal?
Well, developing our reserves. We have reserves. We are speeding up the development of the fields. We are even involved in a project using artificial intelligence with machine learning. We have a huge amount of data to manage to reduce the period between the beginning of exploratory works to first oil. This will shorten this period. That's very important. Time is very important in terms of return of projects. This is very key. We are also making an effort in order to minimize the risk of exploration. to allow us, when we are going to drill a well, to have a very high probability of finding oil in that drilling.
So as of the recording of this episode, in terms of finding the oil following the drilling, the price of a barrel of oil is about $55. When you're putting together a strategic plan for a company dependent on a commodity whose value will vary over time, how do you prepare a plan that is resilient to market pressures, where you don't exactly know where the price is going to be in a year?
Yes, nobody knows. As we economists say, oil price or share price, they make a random walk. The price today does not contain any information about price in the future. So the best thing to do, I learned this lesson working in a mining company, that there are two conditions we must obey. First, to have very low costs, because if you are a very low cost producer, you are going to make money in every scenario. If prices are high, you are going to make a lot of money. If prices are low, you survive. You are going to lose sleep at night. This is a very simple prescription and highly recommended. And second, you have to have low leverage, because if you are in a business that's exposed to high price volatility and as a consequence with high cash flow volatility, you cannot run the risk of being caught in a highly leveraged position in a down cycle.
The two levers that you're mentioning, cost and debt, are the two things I want to drill into just for a minute. So you talked about one aspect of your resilience plan is cutting cost, and as CEO, you have moved Petrobras ahead with its divestment plan. Tell us about some of those divestments and why it's so important to the company.
Well, we decided to focus on the assets in which we are the natural owners. Natural owner means one asset then we are able to extract maximum value, and to sell those assets in which we're not the natural owners. The others can do better than us. So we are selling downstream operations, midstream operations, want to be in these. We need the service of transportation and distribution, but we don't need to be the owners. Let's be an asset-light company in this type of business. We are selling mature fields onshore and in shallow waters, because in these fields we have low productivity, high cost of lifting, high lifting costs. So it's better to sell to smaller companies that can do better than us.
And now on to, having looked at cost, let's look at leverage. You've been strongly reducing the company's debt, and you said you'll pursue more deleveraging in the coming years. Why is that strategy so important at this time?
It's very, very important in order to reduce the cost of our capital. We use a lot of capital, so it's natural to pursue the lowest cost as possible.
The strategic plan also includes a 10 commitments for low carbon and sustainability agenda. How will Petrobras accomplish the set of decarbonization aspects that the plan sets out?
Well, we have achieved several progress in this area. For instance, over the last 5 years, we are second only to Equinor, the Norwegian company, in terms of reduction of carbon emission. We currently already do a lot of carbon capture, re-injecting CO2 into the wells. So we have many projects in progress, and it's fair to commit to goals in order to deal with climate change.
I mean, on that broader aspect of climate change, what role should an energy company play in biodiversity and socio-environmental projects?
We are starting decarbonizing our operations, our natural gas production, which is cleaner than oil, is going to rise significantly in the future. And we are investing in research and development about renewables. We are not going to invest in renewables right now because we lack the competence. Renewables is a different business from oil. We know very well to explore and produce oil, but we know nothing about the business of renewables. So we are not going to invest just for the sake of showing others that we are dealing with climate change. We're not going, if you lose money, it leads you to nowhere. So it's better to learn about the business. Once we know how to thrive in this kind of business, we can move.
So as we wrap up, I just want to go back to how I introduced this episode. Where do you see Petrobras's role in the global economy as you enter year 2 and then the subsequent years of your role as CEO of the company?
Oh, I expect to see Petrobras as a much more efficient company with much more productive, with lower costs, and to be a very focused company on oil and natural gas.
What will you be looking to change in 2020 and then in the years ahead?
Well, I believe that in 2022, Petrobras will be a company quite different from what it is today. It's a little bit different. Petrobras is ending 2019 a little bit different than it was by the end of last year. And it's going to change much more in the next couple of years.
A company that's quite different than it is today. Thank you so much, Mr. Branco, for joining us inside the Ice House.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
That's our conversation for this week. Our guest was Roberto Costello Branco, CEO of Petrobras. If you like what you heard, please rate us on iTunes so other folks know where to find us. And if you've got a comment or a question you'd like one of our experts to tackle on a future show, email us at icehouse@theice.com or tweet at us at IceHousePodcast. Our show is produced by Pete Ash with production assistance from Ken Abel and Ian Wolfe. I'm Josh King, your host, signing off from the Library of the New York Stock Exchange. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
Information contained in this podcast was obtained in part from publicly available sources and not independently verified. Neither ICE nor its affiliates make any representations or warranties, express or implied, as to the accuracy or completeness of the information and do not sponsor, approve, or endorse any of the content herein, all of which is presented solely for informational and educational purposes. Nothing herein constitutes an offer to sell, a solicitation of an offer to buy any security, or a recommendation of any security or trading practice. Some portions of the preceding conversation may have been edited for the purpose of length or clarity.